start, I'm just gonna check. I think there's some really bad latency that's happening today. I don't know why I'm having so many technical issues today. It's also why I'm a few minutes late to start the stream. But I think we should be fine. I like it. I like how everything looks. I like that the music is working for us today. So let's start. Just going to adjust all the different things on all my different screens so that nobody knows how ADHD I actually am. I'm also just going to increase the height of my chair. I don't know why I'm so uncomfortable today. Nothing feels right. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that worked. Did that raise me at all? Oh, okay, whatever. Oh god, I better cut this out of like the final video. What time is it? Geez, 6 minutes. I've taken 6 minutes just to adjust myself. You would think 6 episodes in and I'd have gotten like used to this by now, or I would have perfected this by now, but clearly it's the right time to do this episode. Okay, so let's start. Hi everyone, welcome to Ninja Thinks No One Cares, where I do a lot of thinking and I think that nobody cares about all the thinking that I do. I also think that nobody cares about a lot of topics, and that's why I try and talk about it, so I can find people who do care and connect with you guys and maybe do something fun. Today we have a very difficult topic. We always have difficult topics. I mean, that's the point of doing this, but this is a little bit extra tough. It's going to be a little bit extra tough for me to talk about as well. Today we're going to talk about the pursuit of perfection, and as you can see, I am nowhere close to it even by the 6th episode. There's so many things that come up when you try and do something live, and yeah, it's a lot, but it's fun. I'm really enjoying the process. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying with connecting with new people as often as I can. I'm really enjoying that some of you are coming to my Instagram and kind of giving me a lot of feedback. I really appreciate that for somebody starting off very, very fucking fresh. It's great, like the advice and the feedback and all the little points that everyone has given me. It's very encouraging. It makes a huge difference to me, so thank you. Okay, what are we talking about today, and what is perfection? Completely good, without faults or weakness, the whole, without flaws, without deviations, exactly suitable and right for a particular purpose or situation, simple, black and white, unmistakable definitions of the word perfect, right? These are all different dictionary explanations that are out there in the world and on the internet, and for most of us it's this state that we're all trying to reach through different ways, through our tasks, goals, decisions, looks. It's how we sometimes expect other people and situations to be as well. The perfect holiday, the perfect person for me, the perfect cup of coffee. We're so, well, at least me and a few people who I know, we're familiar with the Vitruvian Man. We know the Fibonacci pattern and the spiral that exists across all natural life, across the universe, just in the way that it exists. But where do we get this idea that we, humans, such flawed creatures, can actually achieve perfection? Unfortunately, the pursuit of perfection, according to how I see it at least, it's not quite so simple. Through a lot of the philosophy and psychology that I have researched before deciding on this episode as well, it's really not a science. Like, it's not simple. It's not something you can break down. It's meant to be understood as like the pinnacle of excellence. And I feel like the concept of excellence itself is so variable from person to person. For some, just doing absolutely nothing on a weekend, just kind of sleeping on the couch, the furthest you go is from your bed to the bathroom, taking naps for long hours. That could be perfect. That could be excellence. That could be something they haven't done in months. And it could just be like the only thing that they want to do. It could be the perfect weekend for them. But it might be exactly the opposite for somebody else. And whatever everyone's definition and journey towards it might be, it really comes from a place of feeling like you are not there. You are not already perfect, flaws and faults included, right? So is perfection something we should strive for? Is it an illusion that's just there to like fuck with our peace? Today's episode, I really want to take the time to break down the highs and lows of perfectionism and how maybe we can look at it in a different perspective, from a different perspective. Is it possible for us to use it as a tool for growth? Maybe together today, you and I, we find an answer. Maybe we don't. But what I'd really like to do is just share real thoughts and stories that we can all relate to. So the way that I'm going to go through this episode today is to go through 4 points. The first one is it really bad to not be perfect? The second one is, we don't question perfection in nature, so why do we question it in ourselves? The third one is, how do I, if it's really, really required, accept me, but still strive for excellence? And finally, what is that fresh perspective on being perfect? How do we create a space for self-improvement and excellence, maybe through some basic tools or a framework? Before we get deep into it though, I really want to know what perfection means to you. What are you constantly trying to be perfect at? And what does the perfect world look like for you? I would really like it if you could drop in some comments on this, because I'm very curious to know how everybody perceives it. I think it's just something that is so subjective, and so far we haven't done anything that, can be both this tangible yet this abstract. So it would be really nice to know what you think about it. I personally have a very weird take on perfection. You'll see it as I talk through this episode. I think it is very important to give it importance in our lives. I think it is important to strive for perfection because it offers some direction and some idea of what's better or what improvement looks like depending on what you're trying to master or what you're trying to be perfect at. And better in the sense of like better than before, better than today, better than yesterday, better than other people have been able to do it, better than something else has been able to do it, or better just in comparison to how I might have done it a few years ago, or how another version of me from a few years ago may have attempted it, whatever. I really think that's important. It's important in that way. But it is supremely unfair to let it derail or compromise your health, especially your mental health, or cause any kind of sabotage for yourself, for others. But it's really difficult to draw those boundaries and figure out those limits, right? So for me, I feel like I'd want it in my kind of day-to-day output, in my small tasks, in my job, in my language, the way I speak, the words I use. But beyond that, I have to also accept that I have so like little control over things, that absolute perfection as a human being, or even for the external world, yes, it does feel a little bit like an illusion. Apart from my core principles and personality, I genuinely think that what's perfect for me changes all the time. Every year I'll have new goals for my health, my body, my work, for my mind. Some of those goals are big, some of those goals are small, some of them take a really long time, like longer than I plan. Some of them I can achieve kind of very quickly, and then I have to find something else to move on to, and that's really frustrating because I thought I would take much longer, so I planned for it in that way. But most of the time, through that pursuit of perfection, I really feel like I fail at a lot of things. I feel like that we, in our own selves, are in our own way for most of this pursuit of perfection. Right? It's always us causing our own setback. So my ankle, obviously, because of how unstable it's been over the last 1 or 2 years, it's pretty clear to me that whatever injuries I had before, I have not worked on healing well enough. So now, any sport I play, I struggle so much with my ankle that it's very difficult, and it takes really long for me to master that sport or just to get better at it on a day-to-day basis, and that is my own fault. So now I have to work on my ankle getting better if I want to work on my sport getting better, right? And that's a flaw. That is something that I didn't give importance to before. I ignored it. I tend to do that. I move on to too many things. I feel like an issue is fixed before it's actually fixed, because I just like feeling like I fixed a problem. But that's just me. And I don't know. I feel like once I've come to terms with that being a part of me, it's just I'm very easily able to say that, yeah, this is a problem. I have this problem. I ruined my ankle, so now I just have to deal with it, and it takes me longer than it would have otherwise, or it takes me longer than it would take another person, and that's fine. So, is it a really bad thing to have flaws? Is it bad not to be perfect? I'm gonna try and get into the depths of these two questions, because I feel like that's kind of where we need to go. Like, we need to dig that deep to figure out what perfection means to us. Before I continue, I can see that there is someone in chat, and my cat is walking across my desk. But hi, Aman, it is so nice to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got connected at Roots Gold Diggers with management. I hope you are doing well. Yes, Aman, I'm doing very well. Thank you. I'm enjoying having my little existential crises once a week with these episodes. I hope you have time to catch them. Thank you so much for being on it live today. But let's continue. If anyone is live and watching this, if you have questions, just throw them in the chat. I will try and answer them as we go ahead, or I'll definitely answer them towards the end. Right? So we were talking about, is it a really bad thing to have flaws, or is it bad not to be perfect? And I think that maybe looking at it like good and bad is not the ideal way to do that, like digging deep. But I think having a little bit of a moral dilemma with this does offer the opportunity for direction. So I realized, right, like what I was telling you about earlier, I realized I have this flaw for whatever reason, experience, trauma, whatever. And it just causes me to make successive bad decisions. Now, I could have spent a lot of time saying, oh no, flaw, bad flaw, go away flaw, I hate you, and shut it down. Pretended that it wasn't there, that it wasn't my fault, that I've put myself in this situation again and again repeatedly. My issue with looking at it from that perspective is I don't think I'd actually get rid of it, and I don't think I would have learned anything from it or understood what triggers it or understood the further limitations that it puts on me. And I think I'm not okay with that. I think as a person, if accepting a bad part of me means that I can at least break my limits somewhere else or learn to compensate for that or find another way to either compromise or improve, then that's progress, right? And progress is good. Progress is somewhere on the path to this perfection that we're all trying to reach. So I don't know, maybe thinking about it as a crack in the cement or having a broken handle on your door, it feels a little more like, okay, maybe we can fix this, or maybe we learn to prevent it from breaking again. Sometimes what we feel might be a flaw could be beneficial if we work on it, right? I have a very close friend who I trust with my deepest, darkest secrets, so I'm not going to tell you who it is. But because of a lot of issues with her family and in her childhood, she's insanely sensitive and perceptive to people lying. And she has this very low trust threshold. She may start by trusting you, and that's a huge if. But she may start by trusting, and then like just in the span of even one conversation, she will see through even the smallest lie, deceit, even if it's a white lie, even if it's a little like insecurity lie, a small like inferiority complex, you're feeling intimidated by her, by someone else in the room, or by the situation that you are in, and you try to overcompensate by saying something that is a little further away from the truth about yourself. We all do it to make ourselves feel better in a social situation, especially if we have social anxiety. She'll be able to tell that something's off. And there is no coming back from that with her, right? You cannot do this whole like, no, I'm ready, sorry, I'll be there in 5 minutes, 5 minutes. No, she will know you're not ready, man. You just have to be honest with her. You just say, bro, it's going to take 20 minutes. I'm sorry, I fucked up. And you can't mess with her at all. Now, I'm laughing and it's funny to me, and it'll be funny to you in this moment, and it might be funny to us. But to her, it will break trust really, really quickly. However, because of this sensitivity that she has, she's become incredibly good at her job for interviewing people. So she works at a slightly senior position now, and she's just become insanely amazing at doing interviews and hiring an amazing team. She is an amazing leader. She's learned to control and to channel this into finding problems at work that most people can't identify. She's become an incredible friend to me as well, because there are days where, I may not be able to tell something's up. It can take months and months for me to figure out that something's wrong. But I will just be narrating a story to her and she will smell the bullshit from a mile away. So whether it's good or bad, I genuinely feel like there is always a productive way to channel it. There is always a way to change that point of view and refocus those flaws a little bit, but you have to do it through acceptance. I think that acceptance is a huge part of being perfect, trying to be perfect, achieving what we can only achieve as perfection as human beings. And it's more kind of like embracing what is imperfect so that you know that it's not an imperfection anymore, or you convert it from an imperfection to something that you can master. These things I found are deeply rooted in Japanese philosophy. I've been reading up on Japanese philosophy, reading a lot of Japanese authors and doing a lot of research on how they live their lives, and there is a weird kind of dichotomy there because a lot of Japanese philosophy is written by people who are not Japanese. When you actually go to Japan and you see their way of life and how they behave, and that these things are just so ingrained into their personality that they don't even think about it twice, they don't even talk about it. But we have to look at it very deeply to be able to understand and imbibe those philosophies. So if you look up things like Kaizen, Wabi-Sabi, the art of Kintsugi, these concepts really go deep into teaching you how to take something imperfect and turn it into something beautiful. It may not still be perfect in the dictionary definition of the word, but if you can achieve beauty through it, I think there's merit there, and I think that is a form of perfection in itself for sure. So if you are curious, I'd urge you to look it up. I don't want to get into it in this chat because otherwise it'll become too long. But if you do want to talk about it, or you want to have a chat with me about it, you can drop it in the comments if you like, or in chat. But yeah, back to topic. I always like to derail every now and then, but stay with me. But yeah, let's actually move on to the next topic, and figure out why it is we do this to ourselves in the first place. I'm going to take a quick 5-second break because another little hiccup has come up, and that little hiccup is my cat there on the floor who is screaming because she wants to go out. Will you give me 1 second? I'll be right back. Okay, quick one. Quick. Yeah, it's great to have cats until they interrupt your stream. No, I love her so much. Okay, yeah. Why do we do this to ourselves in the first place? I have had my stream get delayed today by like some 6.5 minutes, 8 minutes, I don't even know. I'm not flowing through this the way my script is written. It is killing me because I really tried to make this short and sweet and crisp, and it's not happening. And then of course interruptions like this, where my cat was sleeping when I started talking. She was right here and she was asleep. Now she's gotten up and decided to interrupt me and get out of the room. So yeah. But I think that's how life is, and I'm stressing a lot in my head while sitting here and telling you guys not to stress about trying to be perfect. But why do we do this? Why am I doing this to myself? right? Why do we have this question? Why is it that we don't question whether trees are perfect? Like, I'm not questioning whether my cat is perfect or not. She is. She's my cat. Like, she's everything that she is. That's just her. That is her whole. We don't question, like, the birds outside the window. We don't question a fucking mountain. We don't even question a molehill. Nature, the universe, the design of things outside of us, outside of human control in their essence. We just consider they are how they are. We just consider that they are all perfect. Even if there's an example within a species that is an anomaly, it is a perfect anomaly. Like, there's a tiger that's just completely white, like it's completely albino. It is the only one that exists, and that tiger is stunning. It is beautiful. So, if we as humans are also technically a product of nature, very weird and limby compared to most other species, but still, why do we even have this question in our minds? Why question the existence of perfection naturally within ourselves or our ability to achieve it? I have sat for years trying to figure out why I put so much pressure on myself. And through a lot of listening and also through a lot of impatience and frustration, personally, I have come to realize that this comes greatly from external or societal conditioning, especially in the era that millennials have grown up in. The previous generation from millennials have grown up in, the generation that boomers have grown up in, and of course the generation that like Gen Z is in right now, and they're kind of, they're really feeling this debate. I think they're a lot more aware of their limits than any previous generation. They're kind of breaking away a little bit from this societal conditioning, and that's why a lot of previous generations aren't able to accept that. It is because we're all brought up to believe things like practice makes perfect. Oh, this score is bad, and this score is good, and this score means you pass, and this score means you fail. But you shouldn't just pass, because just passing is not a sign of adequate intelligence. That is not perfect. You must be perfect. So even if you get 98.9% in your exam, you could have got 100 and it could have been perfect, but you didn't, and now you should be depressed. Or fine, not even a school example, but even at work. Oh, I did this yesterday, so now today I have to do it better. I have to make it perfect. I have to make it flawless. I made this Excel sheet with like 1600 columns. I don't know, I hate Excel, okay? I absolutely hate Excel, but whoever makes Excel sheets, I'm pretty sure you guys are obsessive enough to want it to be perfect all the fucking time. I made this Excel with like 1600 columns and 595 rows, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it even better, and I'm going to make 3 Excel sheets like that, and they're going to be the best Excel sheets. They're going to be perfect. No one's going to find a mistake. And man, you did the first one you did was fine. It's okay. What you did yesterday, the fact that you even brought it into existence, it was perfect to begin with. There was no need to question yourself. There is no actual need to like bludgeon yourself and guilt yourself into thinking that you need to improve something just to make it perfect or just to be a perfect person. we are actually bombarded by 10 times all of this now, right? Social media, the schools that we grew up in, the amount of competition in our environments, that constant comparison between you and other people, by your teachers, by your parents, by your aunt and uncle and your whole family, insanely competitive workplaces, especially in countries like India, the US, China, the UK. I don't know. I can't tell. I know I have a lot of ex-colleagues. I have a lot of friends from all over the world, and I can guarantee you all of them are just stressed out all the time because it's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of competition for a lot of jobs all the time, everywhere. To make it worse now, we've got this whole kind of, PTSD that comes with dating and apps and all the lingo that's come with it now. Oh, this red flag, green flag shit. I think it's absolute fucking crap. Yeah, hot take time, right? But I think it's complete fucking bullshit. We all have red flags. We all have green flags, man. They're not flags, dude. They are personality traits. If you do not like the personality trait in that person, leave. If you like some personality traits in that person, stay. There are some obvious signs of things like narcissism and sadist behavior and people just generally being self-centered, self-absorbed, I don't know, childhood trauma. There's so much you can learn just through simple therapy. And then you can tell why or like what kind of people you should stay away from. There is no need for all this red flag, green flag shit. It's honestly just a human phase and a trend, and man, I think with the next generation it's already done. So all these things, they train us to see and like nitpick at people's flaws, including our own, like their stains. Like, you have to take it to the bathroom, 4 drops of ujala, and then, kind of bleach the fuck out of it and remove it. Instead of you just looking at the shirt, that is how the shirt was made, that is how the shirt was printed, and just let it exist that way. Just let them be signs of existence, of being as a human, right? We take a lot of this like negative feedback given by other people. We take a lot of this societal conditioning, and then, because why not, we internalize it. Why don't we make these horrible voices from outside part of the voices in our own mind, right? Suddenly, we wake up in the morning, we cannot separate any of this conditioning from our own thinking. Now, I'm saying this like I'm hating on some other person that does it, but I struggle with this big time. I am so deeply conditioned to think that nothing I do is enough, and I don't think that has come from anywhere very external except my own head and my own math that I have done while growing up. And on the one hand, I feel like I have kind of screwed myself over. But on the other hand, feeling like I should do more, I want to do more, I have to do more. It reminds me that, you know what, I actually can do more. I actually do have the capacity to do more. If this is me, and if my flaw is to think I am not enough, can I reach a point of compromise where I do what feels right for me, but I also kind of don't cross a boundary? So what ended up happening over the last maybe 5 or 6 years for me, or maybe just a little bit longer than that, is I've realized that I enjoy being extremely kind and considerate towards others in some way, shape, or form. I always try and do what I can to share my joy and happiness, or to bring joy and happiness to other people. But I've also had to learn this about myself a little bit, because it's also unfair that I accept this in me and then expect it of somebody else. So it has been a bit of a learning curve to be able to do this without having those expectations back. And the other thing that I've had to do that's really, really hard was also to start drawing boundaries for how much I should actually do for people. So it's really been a journey. It's been a fun one, but it's been difficult. But at least the one thing that I'm happy about is that my journey is not the opposite. I'm not some absolute asshole who has to try and become a good person, because I feel like for me that would be much, much harder. So I think there is some merit in identifying that flaw and working through that flaw and figuring out what's right with me, but I wouldn't have been able to do that without acceptance. It's just that the buck doesn't stop there, unfortunately. It does require work, it requires learning, it requires effort later to help you shape and mold yourself into something that makes you feel worthy to you. I feel like that's how we then start appreciating what is imperfect. And I think we just don't do that appreciation enough, that appreciation for ourselves. So now that we're past the points of acceptance and appreciation, now that we've realized, okay, I need to accept me, do I want to still strive for excellence? Yes, of course. I think I would not have reached any of these points or any of these inferences or had any of these realizations if I did not attempt mastery at something, or perfection at something, or want to achieve excellence at something. Only if we attempt to reach a higher level or push ourselves beyond what we think our limits are, it'll be the only time we'll be able to acknowledge our actual limits. I think this is where most people get stuck without even knowing. They hear, oh, accept yourself, and then immediately think, oh, now I've accepted myself, so now I don't want to grow anymore. Or it can be more counterproductive, and I've seen this with a lot of my friends, I've seen this with a lot of people my age, kind of doing this, especially after finishing up their academics and going into like a work environment where it just becomes, I will make as many excuses as possible to not try and improve myself and just stay where I am and how I am, because I accept that this situation is just my life now. I think these things are okay. I think they're valid, but they come from fear. I don't want to invalidate decisions that people have made, but I do feel like those decisions haven't come from the desire for growth or the desire for self-contentment. They've come from a place of fear, and they've come from a place where somebody has settled for who they are. It's just like, oh, I'm just like this now, I'm a loser, okay fine, I'm a loser, whatever, and that's it. It's the end of the story. I think then they end up making all these excuses to hide the fact that they feel like they are losers or they are failures in some way in life, and overcompensate in some other way somewhere else, and it becomes a very vicious or a very like difficult and like depressing cycle for them. And until you realize that you're doing this to yourself, I don't think you kind of figure out how to break out of it. So while yes, I think that way of life is valid. I mean, if you're happy and content and you're okay being happy and content, man, that's great for you. I really wish I was like that, and I could just be happy with the basics. But I don't think self-acceptance and excellence should cancel each other out. If anything, I would love to reach a point for myself where self-acceptance and excellence kind of relied on each other and like worked together. I think about this from the perspective of my friends who are athletes, my friends who are artists, my friends who have spent decades and decades of their lives to master something. The best of them, they don't chase being flawless. They don't chase trying to fix every little thing. What they chase, and what I've found that they chase, is consistency. They really chase building that baseline or like a solid foundation or a personal standard for themselves, that no matter what they do above that, they can always come back to ground zero, and they're happy with that standard because that standard allows them to build back up. So even when they make mistakes, even when something goes wrong that is external, that has nothing to do with them, I've noticed, yes, of course it frustrates them, they're human, but it doesn't frustrate them as much as I see it frustrate people for whom ground zero is something they've not even worked on. Like they've not even tried to improve their baseline. So it kind of like, I remember asking someone really, really successful in their field, they're a musician, what it is they do to kind of continue to be creative and be excellently creative when they're feeling like absolute shit. And I don't want to give you details of what they said, but what I took from it was failure for them, or mistakes for them, or accidents for them never defined their self-worth. It never defined their self-talk. It never defined that ground zero for them at all. So in essence, the more you accept who you are, the more it's easier for you to build who you want to be. I think this greatly applies to me. I can see it apply to a lot of people in my life as well. And what's beautiful about that is that acceptance from that perspective no longer feels like laziness. It doesn't feel like being content with just status quo. It's more the opposite. Kind of gives you that solid ground to stand on, especially while you're trying to grasp all these different things that are happening around you, within you, and work on everything else that you need to work on. So while you're kind of trying to take that next step in whatever you choose, it's important to have just that ground beneath your feet. The only thing more important than that baseline and that foundation is wanting from within you to take the next step, to build back up, to say, okay, this is foundation, but what comes above that? So no, I really don't feel we should stop at acceptance. I really think we should continue to pursue at least the simple idea of self-improvement. Well, it could be with small steps, could be with big steps, whatever you feel your limits are, whatever excites you or scares you, whatever you think gives you a challenge. It requires a slight shift in perspective, kind of how we think of perfection fundamentally. Like, can self-improvement and imperfection actually coexist? Can we accept that we might be smart and intelligent enough to hold both those things together? I think that shift in looking at this is really, really key. Are you okay with existing as dichotomy? Are you okay with constantly pursuing excellence and perfection, but also be okay with imperfection, with not being okay with having flaws and having faults? And you don't have to do it overnight, but you do have to do it in small steps. And I think the one thing that is it's just a great way to look at life is to not practice to be perfect, not train to be perfect, not push to be perfect, but to do it to improve. There is always room for improvement until there's not. Until you very clearly see a limit, or until you yourself are convinced this is it, I have achieved it. To practice to be able to accept your mistakes, to be able to identify your limits, to identify external obstacles, to identify internal flaws, internal faults. That's what practice is meant to be for. You're supposed to go there and fuck up. Now, there are some places in life where you get forced to practice, like in a sport or at math, or even at work. Maybe you get a little bit of practice on the day-to-day for certain technical tasks and stuff like that. But there's a lot of life when we're not really afforded the luxury of practice. And in those moments, we simply just have to allow for the mistakes, allow that acceptance of the self, make sure that if the situation comes up again, we've learned enough to not make that same mistake twice, or we just don't do the same thing again. So, okay, maybe not practice to improve all the time, maybe not practice to be perfect either, but can we practice to be fluent? Can we practice to make certain things muscle memory? Can we practice to raise that foundation for ourselves? So instead of kind of floating off to perfect without raising our foundation, let's try to reinforce the things that we can reinforce so that at least our basics are sound. And I think one of the ways that I have managed to achieve a lot of self-acceptance is to figure out what my internal values are. So to figure out what that perfect or unique set of values are for me. So if we can maybe simulate an exercise together right now, pick 4 things that mean a lot to you in terms of principles or values that you live by, and values that you want people very close to you to have. It could be honesty, it could be integrity, it could be giving love, it could be showing kindness, consideration, being thoughtful, giving importance to the little things, being a hopeless romantic, being ultra reliable, like the most reliable, trustworthy person on this planet, whatever. Figure out what those 3 or 4 kind of deep values are for you. Think about them, write them down, don't write them down, whatever. And then figure out why each of those means so much to you. Why is it that you have grown to give it so much importance in your life? Why is that the first or the second or the third value that you thought of? Why does it hold weight for you? Your answer could be complicated, your answer could be very simple. Your answer could even be like a situation you've been through. Your answer could be something you've observed in somebody else, so you've imbibed it for yourself. Doesn't matter what your answer is. Take those answers and then figure out, if these are my 4 most important values and principles, how am I going to practice them daily? And it is in the simple practice of those 4 values that you can actually simulate practice to achieve a certain level of excellence in your day-to-day life. If you can be at peace with yourself, if you can be at peace with the fact that you have those 4 values very deeply ingrained in you, if you can live with yourself making mistakes and improving yourself based on those values, then all your flaws will find some place, some space in your mind as like, I don't know, very aesthetic decor in the rooms of, you know, your brain cells or your personality or your ego or your id or whatever. So, coming back to the question for today, is the pursuit of perfection worth it? My direct answer to you would be not if it's destroying you and making you fail at everything, not if it's driving you to madness and forcing you to ignore everything else. But practice excellence, acceptance, honesty, that commitment to yourself, like showing up for yourself all the time. Those things that come from the pursuit of perfection, I think, have very deep meaning. We should strive to hold those values. We should try and improve ourselves as we move along. And I think just simply showing up for yourself, no matter who you are or how you are, I think that is what's worth it, if not perfection itself. I think to kind of wrap up or add to me talking about a bunch of different experiences and a bunch of different people, I would like to say for myself that whatever way I was born, whatever biology I have, whatever has conditioned me, whatever I've experienced to become who I am today, who I am right now in this moment, sitting here on a live, still thinking and freaking out about how many interruptions I've had and how imperfect my language has been because I'm so tired today again. It's all part of who I am. And in the words of the greatest philosophers of all time, Huberstank, I'm not a perfect person. But then again, who the fuck is? What is a perfect person? Who has the right or authority to define that? I cannot define it for myself. Those last 4 sentences were not part of Huberstank lyrics. But they're still very important sentences to me. So yeah, I mean, I hope you take the time to look at a lot of these concepts. I hope you can spend time looking at other philosophers' perceptions and perspectives on perfection and draw your own conclusions. And I would really love it if you shared it with me in the comments. Because for me, after studying and reading up on a lot of different philosophies and how many different people looked at it, I think what I believe for myself is that perfection by dictionary is a fucking illusion for the self, for the human self. But I think perfection for us is just, it's exactly what we spoke about today. And at the end of the day, whatever you decide to do with this knowledge, it should help you and it should bring you one step closer to feeling whole. Whole in yourself, whole in your personality, whole as a person, whole and happy. And I think I'm going to end it there. I really appreciate everyone who's come on a wild Saturday night and hung out with me while I've questioned a whole bunch of things that a bunch of people question but don't question enough and don't question it out loud. And I hope you've benefited from this. If you have, please comments, write to me, drop me a DM on Instagram if you like, and I will catch you guys next time.